Good afternoon and welcome to Rapid City's Legal and Finance Committee meeting for Wednesday, August 2nd, boy, I can't even talk, August 2nd, 2017. I'd like to start with a roll call and determination of quorum, please, Stacy. Here.
Here.
Thank you. Now's the time to adopt the agenda. Is there any committee member that has an addition, deletion, or modification on the agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adopt today's agenda as presented.
So moved.
Got a motion by Laurenti to adopt today's agenda as presented, a second by Nordstrom. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda has been adopted today, which includes 16 items, all on consent. Now is the time for general public comment. This is a time for anyone from the audience to talk to the seated committee members today on any item that is currently not on the agenda. I do have one public speaker request form. It's from Jackie Gallego, and if you could approach the podium, state your name and your affiliation to the city for the record, please. And Jackie, you have the attention of the seated committee members.
Thank you. It's nice to see you guys back in full session. My name is Jackie Gallego, and I am the general manager of Native Son News Today. And in the past, we have had the city minutes to run in our publications for publication, and I'm once again asking to be placed back into the budget so that we could be in there for this calendar year. The minutes, the size would be determined on, of course, what happens in council, but the rates would stay the same as they have been for the last 3 years. So I think in the budget we were looking at about $15,000 to $18,000 that we were actually given 2 years ago. And I assumed that it would be within that parameter, maybe around 20, depending again on city council and how long of the sessions would be published.
Do you have any other comments, Jackie?
No, that's
all right. Thank you. Since this item is currently not on the agenda, thank you for your comments today. It can be placed on the agenda if full seated committee members would like to place it on the agenda, but if there's no motion to place it on the agenda, Jackie, thank you for your comments. And the budget hearing, it has been moved from Wednesday, July 26th, which was originally the presentation of the mayor, and it's been moved to Monday night, August 7th, starting at 5:30. And city council meeting will start Monday night at 7 because of the mayor's presentation of the 2018 budget. So thank you, Jackie. Any other public comment on items currently not on the agenda? Seeing none, we're going to move on to public comment on consent items, which also is our entire agenda for today. Consent items include items 1 through 16. I currently have no speaker request forms for any consent items. Am I missing anyone from the audience? Seeing none, public comment is now closed. The committee members will now consider the items on today's agenda. The chair recognizes Alderman Laurenti.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make sure we pulled items 2 and 9.
All right, 2 and 9. And Chair any other?
You got one of them.
All right. So I'll entertain a motion from the committee members to approve all the consent items 1 through 16 except items 2 and item 9.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Drury to approve consent items 1 through 16 except items 2 and 9. I've got a second by Nordstrom. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Items 1 through 16 except item 2 and item 9 have been approved for Monday night and are being sent to Monday night's council meeting. Item number 2 is to approve a resolution to donate surplus real property to Passages Women's Transitional Living Incorporated. And if there's no comments from any committee member, I did have one. So seeing none, if I can ask the city attorney a question. Joel, would you mind answering a follow-up question on this, please?
Okay.
Thank you. So attached is the valuation, which is good. I did pose a question, and I did get an answer that Passages Women's Transitional Living Incorporated is is exempt, so this will not be going back on the tax roll. So it is a donation from the city to a exempt organization. So my question is are you familiar, are they ready to build a building because the city's donating the land? Is there any, do they have the plans and the funds to go ahead and construct the facility?
I don't have any information on that.
Okay. Oh, we do have someone from the audience. Thank you. If you could approach the podium, if you're willing to take some questions, and state your name and your affiliation to the city.
Which speaker? Either one?
Either one.
I'm Don Van Etten. I'm chairman of the board of Passages. We do not have a fundraising campaign in place at this time. I talked with the mayor about whether or not we should begin to fundraise before we knew whether we were going to get the donation of the land. We have a preliminary agreement with Habitat for Humanity to help us build. I have a volunteer general contractor, Jim Skull, has agreed to be our general contractor and to sign off on donations of either money or services on the part of other contractors within the city. One of the proposals, I met with Scott Engman for an hour and 45 minutes and discussed this the other day. He invited me to come back and talk to their board. They are pretty well completed with their school block project, and they're looking for another project to work on. They feel that our women are homeless women coming out of prison, and they are trying to build facilities for homeless people. One of the proposals that he brought to us, and we haven't discussed in much detail yet, is the fact that they would be willing to actually take over on the total building project and actually build our building and own it and lease it back to us for a period of 5 years, at which time we could complete our fundraising program and pay them off for the entire building at that point in time.
Thank you. If you don't mind holding, there may be another question. I'd like to ask a follow-up question of our city attorney.
Sure.
Joel, does the donated land from the city, would that allow for what Don just basically mentioned of having an organization come in and basically construct the building on donated land and lease it back to them for 5 years? Is there?
I mean, if we just transfer the land, they'll own it. So, yeah, they can structure it however they want to structure it.
Okay.
I have a son-in-law who's an attorney. I discussed with him the possibility of us owning the land, somebody else owning the building temporarily. He said it happens all the time in commercial projects.
In commercial projects, I understand. Exempt projects, I need some more coaching on. So, Joel, the other question I had on this was concerning the actual donation of the property, and the reason I asked if they were willing or if they were ready to construct is, does the city ever put contingencies, or the Planning Commission uses it for uses another name, but where stipulations, thank you, Pauline, put a stipulation on a land donation that, if the property is not built on within 5 to 10 years or 15 years, whatever the deadline is, but if the building or if the land donated is not used for the intention in which it was donated, it reverts back to the city?
Yeah, it would be actually within the deed, transferring it. I did not draft the resolution, and I haven't worked on this, so I don't know if there's a reversionary in it, but it would probably make sense to have a reversionary clause to make sure the land is used for the purpose it's donated for. and I can talk to my staff who drafted it. I don't know if that's been discussed with passages, but since we are donating it for a specific purpose, and we get that most often probably in parkland, when people donate us land for parkland, there's generally a condition on the grant that it be used for parkland, and if it's ever not, then it would revert back to the owner. So we would probably want some sort of reversionary clause. I'll take a look at that prior to Monday night, and maybe we'll have an updated resolution on Monday night, but generally that's included. Not, we would mention it in the resolution, but it would be in the deed that we actually execute.
So at this time for the city committee today, would your recommendation be to go ahead and have a possible motion to send this to council Monday night without recommendation, or with a recommendation with the stipulation that the city attorney's office will be revising?
Well, I see Mr. Van Etten is trying to talk, and this hasn't been discussed with them yet, I don't think so.
Before it got to you guys, Vicki Fisher ran it through all 4 departments. She did also run it through the, maybe not, he's not heard it, but it's been run through the city attorney's office. And the stipulation suggested was that we build on it within 2 or 3 years. That came back, and everybody, I have the documents at home of all 4 departments that she sent to me. They all have some stipulations as to what we need to do. It is, part of this land is within the 100-year floodplain. That's why it's not been sold to somebody else or built on before this time. It was designated for the recreational facility, which has already been built elsewhere. I had Pat Wiss do a site plan on it because this was required ahead of time. He successfully took our basic drawing of the facility, got it outside the floodplain in the upper corner of the lot. So yes, we understand that we need to build on it within a certain period of time. As I said, this offer from Habitat came, we had a board meeting last Friday. I only heard about the offer of them building it and owning it and leasing it back in an email he sent to me on Thursday, so we haven't gone through that. The mayor originally said, don't start your fundraising campaign until we find out whether we're going to give you the land or not. The word from the attorney's office is that you can either sell a piece of property at 90% of the appraised value, or you can give it away. And we're asking that you give it away to our nonprofit. I would also make the point that these women that we are taking out of prison and hopefully converting to useful and productive citizens of the community are costing you and I about $35,000 a year to keep them back in prison. So we are adding something of value to the community in addition to adding something of value to all the women's lives.
Thank you. So going back to Joel, it sounds like they're aware of a potential stipulation, but when I read the documents attached, I did not see any stipulation or revisionary that you had talked about as far as being a clause in any of the documents that were attached that would at least protect this property from being utilized for the intent in which it's being donated.
Correct. And I think we need to talk to them about that in specific, what the terms are going to be. I don't think it's going to be anything based on the comments that it's going to be anything controversial. It's basically what we'd want to do, obviously, is prevent them from, oh, hey, now somebody's donating this site over here and we've decided this one's a little better, and so we're going to move over here instead, and I guess now we have this land, so we're going to sell it. Although, as he said, it's probably not very desirable land, but I mean, we could write a reversionary clause that should work for everybody, and we could have that by Monday night. So as far as a recommendation, I think, you know, if that's what you want to see, and, you're supportive generally of giving them the property, then I don't see a problem sending it to council with a recommendation with the understanding if you want a stipulation, just include that in your motion.
Thank you, Joel. So with the seated committee members hearing the recommendation from the city attorney, I know my concern is that just on any donated land from the city, it is nice if there is a revisionary clause or a stipulation to make sure that the taxpayers are protected, that if the city is surplusing a piece of land and donating it, that it actually does come to fruition in a reasonable amount of time for the purpose in which was stated that the property is being donated. So I would entertain a motion from any seated committee member on item number 2. Chair recognizes Alderman Nordstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That'll be my motion, is to send this to council with the recommendation to add the reversion clause.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Nordstrom to send to council for an approval of item number 2, but for the city's attorney's office to provide a revisionary clause within the resolution and the deed. I've got a second by Drury. Alderman Nordstrom, it sounded like you have more comments?
If I may, Madam Chair, I've had a chance to take a look at some of the plans on this and not gone into great detail on it, but it looks like a good plan for what they are intending to do with this project altogether. It looks very favorable, so I can support it. The revisionary clause, though, is something new for me as well, so willing to take a look at that. And from the way the city attorney is addressing this, I think it's something worthwhile taking a real close look at. So I hope we can continue on supporting this project. Thank you.
Thank you. And Joel, just before we vote on this, do you have enough direction to negotiate what that revisionary clause looks like, or are you looking for a more direct, more direction from the city council as far as what that revisionary clause should look like?
No, I think I'll probably use my judgment and bring it to you in a way that I feel is appropriate. I think I understand what you're looking for, so.
Thank you, because it sounds like, as Don had indicated, you know, representing passages, it sounds like they're aware that there may be a stipulation, so I don't think you're going to have too much trouble getting a revisionary clause in there, just so that we can proceed on Monday night with this. Thank you. We'll leave it in your hands. I have a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9. Item number 9 is to approve the final Community Development Block Grant for fiscal year 2017. This is the annual action plan, and to authorize the mayor and finance officer to sign SF 424 and the CDBG certifications. If I can spit that out. I'll entertain a motion from the committee members or comments. If there's no comments at this time, I did request the vice chair to go ahead and pull this, as there is an award in this grant for 2017 that I am not in favor of, and I've objected all along, so I just asked it to be pulled so I can continue to object to the allocation of the funds. I will state it again. I do not believe CDGB funds, grant funds, should be used for studies. I'll entertain a motion. Chair recognizes Alderman Nordstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let's see. I'll make a motion to approve the final Community Development Block Grant. And then also include the authorization for the mayor and the finance officer to sign the certifications. That's my motion.
Is there a second? Motion fails for lack of a second. I'll entertain another motion. We have available to us a not to approve it or to send to council without recommendation.
I'm going to make a motion to deny.
I've got a motion by Alderman Laurenti to deny the final approval of the Community Development Block Grant as presented today. Do I have a second? Motion fails, lack of a second. I've got one more option here. We can either change the allocation funds or we can send to council without recommendation. Chair recognizes Alderwoman Drury.
I'll make a motion without recommendation.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I've got a motion to send item number 9 to council without recommendation by Drury, a second by Laurenti. Any further discussion? Chair recognizes Alderman Nordstrom.
Oh, yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be voting no on this, primarily because I think we can come forward with a recommendation, and I don't see the reason or rationale behind not sending this with some kind of an effort, either supporting or denying it. So I'll be voting no on this motion. And we would like to speak directly to, and I'll probably have to wait till Monday night because of the motion, the way it's made. I'd like to speak directly to this, and then I'll save my comments for Monday night.
Well, I believe you will have your opportunity because this will no longer be on consent since
you.
it's going to council without recommendation. I do have a motion to send to council without recommendation and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. Its recommendation is to send to council without recommendation, or the motion is to send to council without recommendation. 3 yeses, 1 no. No from Alderman Nordstrom. That's the end of our consent calendar. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I've got a motion by Laurenti to adjourn, second by Nordstrom. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.